A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We are ready for the start of stage number 1 for TCR European Endurance. My name is Daniele Spadi. I will be your commentator today for both stages as we are ready to decide the championships, and every single title is yet to be assigned here in the second ever season of TCR European Endurance. And we are ready with the images from the Misano World Circuit, the fourth and final round of the 2025 season. Drivers are already getting ready to start, and we are here, the second to last corner, ready to give this stage number 1 underway with Eric Scalvini on pole position. You can see the white and orange Wimmenberg Motorsport Cupra starting from pole position. It's lights out and away we go for stage number 1 here in Misano. It's a great getaway from Yuri Brigliadori in second position, the championship leader, challenging for the lead into turn number 1. Around the outside goes Yuri Brigliadori, slightly off the track as well, trying to re-engage in the battle with Eric Scalvini as the Cupra is looking to stay in first position, and they do so brilliantly as now Scalvini goes to the inside line into turn number 4. A slight lockup for Brigliadori as he tries it around the outside. This is incredible stuff, fighting not only for the stage lead, but of course for the overall championships as well. These are the two cars that are fighting for the title majorly, at least this weekend, with Eric Scalvini being able to defend first position. Pole that got for Wimmenberg Motorsport yesterday after qualifying being retained by Eric Scalvini in these first few corners. Yuri Brigliadori in second position with Senna Somerville, the DSG leader, not just for this stage number 1, but also for the championship, staying in third place, as we now have Yuri Brigliadori in second, looking to put some pressure on Eric Scalvini's shoulders. Yuri Brigliadori is the de facto championship leader with 6 points of an advantage after qualifying on the duo of Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano, as the two are desperately looking to gain some points, especially on Yuri Brigliadori, with Wimmenberg Motorsport being on the front foot this entire weekend, taking pole position and of course also dominating things in free practice. As now we move towards the end of the very first lap, but you can see how close Yuri Brigliadori is, looking to put some pressure on Scalvini as we now move towards the start of lap number 2, as now Brigliadori is super close to the back of Eric Scalvini, fakes the attack into the inside line, switches to the outside, but nothing so far for Yuri Brigliadori, as he now looks to tuck in behind Eric Scalvini. Meanwhile, Senna Somerville is still in the DSG lead with Emilio Damante in 4th position. It's been a great weekend so far for Tudor Motorsport as well, who's looking to fight for the team's championship as well. However, Wimmenberg Motorsport is looking to be the prime favorite for that, as they are now in 1st and 3rd position overall. But both cars ready to get under attack from Yuri Brigliadori and Emilio Damante respectively. Meanwhile, behind, Ibrahim Okiai has overtaken Alessandro Alcidi at the start, and so the Gen 1 leaders and the couple that will become the Gen 1 champions for Texaco Team AMS at the end of this weekend are up into 5th position in the overall standings. Behind them, it's Alessandro Alcidi, as said before, with new entry Bernard Stitz in 7th place, the Bernauer Motorsport driver, looking to fight for the top 5 as Leonardo Cupari and Berk Kalpaklioglu round out the top 9 here in Misano. As now we see the fight for the lead going on once more as we enter the last sector, with Yuri Brigliadori glued to the back of Eric Scalvini, almost tries it down the inside. There's contact between the two cars, and almost around goes Eric Scalvini, with Yuri Brigliadori now slowing down after the contact. It was a pretty hefty impact between the two of them. Does Yuri Brigliadori have an issue to his car and to his Audi? We'll find out very soon, but that is already an incredible scenes here in Misano, with Eric Scalvini surviving the contact. But the same cannot be said for Yuri Brigliadori, who looks to slow down. Is he able to get back to racing speeds, or is the Audi and BF Motorsport's dream of becoming the overall champions over already after just 2 laps of racing? Well, meanwhile, Senna Somerville is up into 2nd position with Emilio Damante holding on 3rd. It was a pretty hefty contact, it has to be said. It was into turn number 12. One of the prime overtaking opportunities, especially with TCR cars. And out goes the BF Motorsport Audi of Yuri Brigliadori. And this is an incredible moment for the championship, as Yuri Brigliadori is now bound to lose the championship lead in favor of either Eric Scalvini or Senna Somerville should something happen to the Cupra number 6 that is currently leading the race. But that is incredible. From both drivers, we had the high of an incredible battle between the two of them for 2 full laps. But after that, contact into turn 12 sees Yuri Brigliadori come to a stop at the end of lap number 2. It's been such a difficult weekend for BF Motorsport as well. An issue in free practice prevented the couple from racing and driving throughout the for the majority of the first 2 free practice sessions, thus losing valuable track time. Let's not forget that for this round, Yuri Brigliadori is supposed to race together with his brother, Eric, who has been helping him on the pit wall this year. For BF Motorsport, of course, the lifelong fans of TCR European Endurance will remember Eric Brigliadori's triumphant run in 2024 as he became the first ever overall champion of the series in 2024 together with Texaco Team AMS and Turgut Konukoglu. And now he was looking to help his brother achieve the same goal today. Let's not forget we also have stage number 2 starting later today, this afternoon, and that is actually, of course, the very last chance for Yuri Brigliadori to come back for this overall title, with points awarded from this season onwards to both stages as well as the overall race classification results. He, however, will need a miracle to pull this off, especially if Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano end up not having any issue. We were looking to have a brilliant fight between the two of them, and here is Yuri Brigliadori in the distance, having to step out of the car. And unfortunately, that means that the BF Motorsport entry will not be classified for this first stage, meaning that they will lose valuable points in order to fight for the championship. And now their hopes of winning the title look to be very grim. The contrary will be said, of course, for Wimmerberg Motorsport, as they are now crossing the first sector, with now Senna Somerville and Emilio Damante in second and third position, as we can see them right now. Here is Senna Somerville. These two are in fact leading the DSG standings, not just in stage number 1, but in the championship as well. There's a 21 point gap between Senna Somerville and the duo of Tudor Motorsport, driven their car now by Emilio Damante and then later on by Macari, with Eduardo stepping in the car in the second half of this stage number 1. A 21 point gap that, however, could be completely overthrown today. Let's not forget that Misano, the final round of the season, has a 1.5 point coefficient, meaning that points gathered here will be 50% more valuable than the rest of points that have been accumulated so far this season. This means that, of course, the Misano round is ever so important, which makes it even more difficult for Yuri Brigliadori now to come back in the championship fight. This will be an incredible turn of events, especially since we came here with Wimmerberg Motorsport having the upper hand momentum-wise, but Yuri Brigliadori having the advantage in the standings. And that is a very telling image of one Audi stricken on the track, the other now approaching the last sector. Meanwhile, Eric Scalvini is through to lap number 6, and he just set the fastest lap of the race with the 1 minute 44.218. That is a very quick rhythm for Scalvini, who had taken pole together with 3-time TCR Italy champion Salvatore Tavano. who we will be seeing later on today. Scalvini now only has to administrate his lead because his nearest rivals are from another class, the DSG category, or the Gen 1 car of Ibrahim Okiai, which we'll see right here. He has been the driving force of this class in 2025, together with Sinan Çiftçi, his teammate, and they are bound to take home the victory spoils in the Gen 1 standings, with Okiai also being the Gentleman Trophy champion. We have, of course, 2 trophies other than the classes. The Gentleman reserved to those drivers who are older than 50 years old, and then the junior standings for those under 21 years of age, and that will be won at the end of this weekend by another Texaco Team AMS driver, and that is Berk Kalpaklioglu, who's currently in 8th position, looking to close in on Leonardo Cupari in what is the fight for 4th place in the DSG class. Meanwhile, here is one of the new entries of this weekend compared to Vallelunga, and for the Hyundai Elantra N of Renault Motorsport, it is also the maiden appearance in TCR European Endurance, and that was Bernard Stitz going through. Here he is, looking to close in on Alessandro Alcidi, who this weekend is part of yet another all-brother couple with Alessio, his brother, who has been fighting for the DSG standings throughout this year with Tudor Motorsport. He's currently in 3rd position in class, not just in this race, but also in the championship as well. This overtake that could happen from Bernard Stitz on Alessandro Alcidi will not change any of that, given that they're in 2 different standings. Meanwhile, here is the garage of Imavec Motorsport, who are currently leading with a 1-2. There's stage number 1, a result that has already happened in this exact order in Slovakia for stage number 2, in what was an incredible race for Senna Summerbell, as he became the first ever DSG overall winner in a complete race in the history of the series, promoted by Mauricio Slaviero. And here he is, Senna Summerbell. He looks to have now built a slight gap over Emilio Damante after the latter was looking quite quick at the start of the race. He was definitely trying to close in on Senna Summerbell, but unfortunately for him, the Jamaican, who has looked mighty quick throughout this entire season, looks to be now slightly more comfortable in his car. He was the DSG winner on 2 occasions this year, in the first 2 races of the championship, at the Mugello circuit and at the Slovakia ring. Meanwhile, down the inside goes Ibrahim Okiai, and almost round goes the Texaco Team AMS driver. Great car control to keep his Audi pointing into the right direction, but that was yet another hefty impact between 2 cars, this time into turn number 11. And now we see Okiai go to the inside of Emilio Damante once again, and this time the yellow and white Audi of Tudor Motorsport sees its rival and leaves the door open as Okiai goes through into 3rd place in the overall standings, looking to finish on the podium in the overall class as well, which will be a feat that has not yet been achieved by the number 1 car this year. They have gathered 3 4th place finishes in a row across the 3 rounds that we've seen so far in Mugello, the Slovakia ring, and in Vallelunga last September. It doesn't look like any of the 2 cars reported substantial damages from that contact, which is great. And unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Yuri Brigliadori. For those who joined us after lap number 2, well, you missed potentially the most important moment of the season. Contact between Eric Scalvini and Yuri Brigliadori while fighting for the lead of the stage and the race itself. So Yuri come to a halt at the end of lap number 2 with damages to his front left suspension, effectively putting him out of the race and almost out of the running for the championship. We don't have the mathematical confirmation yet, but that looks to be the case, unfortunately, for Yuri Brigliadori. As now we see another fight, this time for 7th place in the overall standings and 4th in the DSG class, with Leonardo Kupari trying to keep behind Berk Kalpaklioglu. There's also a great chance of seeing two very different cars fighting for the same piece of tarmac, as now down the inside goes the car of Berk Kalpaklioglu. Almost a third contact in turn number 11, but fortunately this time around two drivers were able to not come together, as now they're about to cross the start finish line once more, looking to be engaged into a fight once again, as Kalpaklioglu had a slight look up the inside, but not quite what he had in mind to complete the overtake, as Kupari stays in 7th position. Let's see if Leonardo has to defend the position. He does into Curva, with the Volkswagen driver going slightly wide into turn number 5. This could compromise his exit from turn number 6, as Kalpaklioglu now will make use of the slipstream to try and make a move into Quercia. Just a fast sweeping left-hander that we are approaching right now. Kalpaklioglu looks to the outside, but there's no room to complete the move, and therefore he stays in 8th position. Meanwhile, we see now the fight with Berk Kalpaklioglu and Leonardo Kupari. Again, as the two try to get into the final sector of the Misano World Circuit, one of the highest regarded circuits in not just Europe, but in the entire world for car racing. As now a slight lockup for Leonardo Kupari, as the Faro Racing driver looks to defend from Berk Kalpaklioglu. It's also amazing to see Faro Racing back in contention in TCR European Endurance. They were part of the championship in round number 1 in Mugello, and last time out here in Misano at the end of the 2024 season. Kalpaklioglu once again tries to move around the outside, but that doesn't work into turn number 1, with Leonardo Kupari keeping 4th position in class and 7th overall. Meanwhile, now a slight lockup once more from Kupari opens the door into 4th position, and Berk Kalpaklioglu goes in and is able to overtake the Italian into 7th position in the overall standings, crucially into 4th for the DSG class. A DSG class that still sees Senna Somerville in the lead with a 7.3 second gap over Emilio Damante, who is currently in 4th position in the overall standings, but 2nd in the DSG class. Let's not forget, however, that Senna Somerville is racing on his own, as Chris Issa has elected not to partake in either qualifying or race this weekend, after he made his comeback to official racing last time out in Vallelunga. And therefore, Somerville will have to serve 5 more seconds in the pit lane compared to the rest of the drivers. It is a 2-minute and 45-second minimum time from the start of the pit lane to the exit, as of course this will be the minimum time for those who are racing in pairs. It grows to 2 minutes and 50 seconds for those who are racing on their own, and this weekend we have 2 of them. On one hand, as we said before, Senna Somerville, and on the other, Bernhard Stitz for Renauer Motorsport. Meanwhile, up top, it's still Eric Scalvini leading things off after having contact with Yuri Brigliadori into turn number 12 on lap 2, which put the BF Motorsport Audi out of contention for this opening stage, and, well, unfortunately, the championship too. Of course, should Eric Scalvini not have any major problems throughout the 2 stages, and that is not something that could be taken for granted. As of course, we have seen Eric Scalvini have issues together with Salvatore Tavano twice already this year. They were leading in Mugello before we had an incredible turning point of the race with just 12 minutes to go. The Vimmerek Motorsport Cupra had stopped out on track, therefore missing out on a debut win. And then they had a similar issue in stage number 1 at the Slovakia ring. They were fortunately able to come back and then attack in stage number 2, taking the stage win in that occasion. Meanwhile, here is Bernhard Stitz trying to stay behind Alessandro Alcidi, trying to overtake either the Italian driver. In this moment in time, however, that overtake will be only useful for the overall standings, with Bernhard Stitz being part of the Gen 2 class, and then Alessandro Alcidi instead partaking in the DSG category. Though now Stitz looks to be quite close. He is making his debut in TCR European Endurance, especially for Renauer Motorsport, who have brought the Hyundai Elantra to the table, a car that has made its debut in the series promoted by Maurizio Slaviero last time out in Vallelunga with BRC Squadra Corse, an incredible team that has used the Elantra for quite a long time, and it did so brilliantly in Vallelunga, taking second position. The car that this weekend is competing in the PCI World Tour Finals in Macau with brilliant results after the practice that they did in Vallelunga with the pair of Franco Girolami together, Nessa Girolami, sorry, together with Victor Davidovski, finishing in second in Vallelunga. And then right now we see the Elantra with Bernhard Stitz as they fight for the 5th overall position. It is a very tough car, of course, the Elantra, to fine-tune, especially on a track such as Misano. But Renauer Motorsport has done a great job to be here up and running and competitive enough to fight for the top 5 on their very first outing. On the other hand, however, Alessandro Alcidi has showed great pace throughout this opening part of stage number 1. But let's not forget that we're not even halfway through of this opening stage, and we are about to start thinking about pit stops. Let's not forget, in fact, that in TCR European Endurance, there's a mandatory stop to carry out in both stages. A minimum of 2 tires will have to be changed, with the minimum time being of 2 minutes and 45 seconds from pit entry to pit exit, which could, of course, shake things up in the order so far. That is not something that Vimmerwerk Motorsport will want to happen, though, as their 2 cars are running in a comfortable 1-2 at the moment. Well, comfortable enough for Eric Scalvini, who's leading with a hefty gap over its rivals. Of course, being part of a different class helps with increasing the gap. But Senna Somerville is actually now coming under pressure from Ibrahim Okiai. The latter has gained 8 tenths in the previous lap, a 146.2 for the Turk and a 147 flat for the Jamaican. The gap now being just 4 tenths of a second. The same can almost be said for Alcidi and Stitz, with the latter just 6 tenths behind the Volkswagen Golf of Tudor Motorsport. We have 2 Volkswagens in this starting grid. Of course, the second one being brought by Faro Racing, which took the DSG win here in Misano last year for round number 3 with the very same car, just proving how important experience can be on a certain racetrack. And in fact, as they are back, they are now into the top 5 of DSG standings, currently in 8th position overall with Leonardo Cupari, together with Roberto Armogida, who will make his TCR European Endurance race debut later today in just a matter of minutes, as now Bernard Stitz looks to the outside of Alessandro Alcini as he tried to have a look, but couldn't make it stick on Alcini, who is defending properly. And I mean, you would expect this from a driver that has been racing in TCR competitions throughout the entire year, especially here at TCR European Endurance in the sequential plus in the Gen 2 standings. He was Yuri Brigliadori's teammate for 2 of the first 3 races that happened in Mugello and Vallelunga, as he finished in second in Mugello and then in third at the Roma racetrack in September. Meanwhile, here is Ibrahim Okiai looking to climb into second position, and another clean overtake for the experienced Turk, who has been absolutely on it today, climbing all the way from 6th on the grid to 2nd in this opening stint. A phenomenal job from Ibrahim Okiai at the start of lap number 15. That was definitely what he was looking for, as he now moves into second position in the overall standings. He is still leading the Gen 1 class as well, and he is bound to become a champion, therefore taking home his second driver's class title after doing so last year as well. At that time, it was in the DSG category together with Sideka Chan, which was the first female driver to win a championship in TCR European Endurance's history. And that was with Texaco Team AMS. Just like this year, they have been a driving force in the Gen 1 category. Meanwhile, into the pits goes Eric Scalvini, the leader of the race. He now climbs out of the car and lets Salvatore Tavano in, as the 3-time TCR Italy champion is now on board car number 6. This, of course, tells us that we have, in fact, started our pit stop operations. The pit window is officially opened, and therefore Calvino and Tavano will make full advantage of that, stopping as early as possible. You can see the tire marks left on the car on the right-hand side from the contact with Yuri Brigliadori. Meanwhile, here is Emilio Damante doing the exact same from 4th position on the grid, as Eduardo Maccari is bound to step in. He's already there to help Emilio Damante out of the car, who on the other hand will help Eduardo strap in. Tudor Motorsport, of course, getting ready to change a minimum of 2 tires. That is the rule, with a maximum of 3 mechanics being able to work on the car. We also saw one of the Texaco Team AMS entries in the pits, and that is car number 1, after a phenomenal opening stint, it has to be said, from Ibrahim Okiai. He was by far the quickest driver of any of the DSG or Gen 1 standings. And that was an incredible performance from him, as he now moves into a different role, as he's bound to watch his teammate Sinan Shifchi getting ready to bounce into the car and get out of the pit lane. There is Eric Scalvini, arms crossed, watching his Cupra get back out on track, with Salvatore Tavano as we now see Senna Rebel, who is still out on track. He looks to be fighting to stay out and gain as much time as possible, hitting as late as he can. This is a strategy that, of course, helps him, well, right now being in the de facto lead of the race in the overall standings, but he's going to wait to pit at the very last second. Meanwhile, we now see Renault Motorsport going into the pits. They're working on the front right, putting the car now onto the hydraulic jacks and getting ready to get back out together with the other entries. And now we see, I think that was Ibrahim Okiai and Edoardo Macari, or Okiai's teammate at least, Sinan Chifchi, looking to get out of the pits. And that was a pretty good stop from Edoardo Macari then, as he gained a bit of time over Sinan Chifchi with the Motorsport entry being able to gain some of the lost time before the pit stop. The gap was around 5 seconds between the two of them. We'll see how that fares once they cross the next end of sector line. Meanwhile, here is Bernard Stitz and Senna Somerville, as we briefly saw the Cupra with Jamaican colors stop in the pit lane. Speaking of pit lane now, out of it comes Leonardo Cuppari with Roberto Armogida. Meanwhile, here is, in fact, car number 33, looking quite competitive today out there. As now we see the DSG class leader and the driver who was briefly in the overall lead for a couple of laps, that is Senna Somerville. He's changing the front tires, as we saw from the pit lane camera. Let's not forget, given that Senna Somerville races on his own, he will have a substantial 5 seconds, let's call it, of additional time to serve in the pit lane compared to those who are racing for just half of the stage, given that they are sharing the car with a teammate. So Senna has to stay in the pits for 2 minutes and 50 seconds from the moment that he engages the pit limiter, crossing the start of the pit lane entry, up until the time that he does the contrary and exits the fast lane. We can also see Eric Scalvini looking on his, well, teammate with the sister car, the DSG entry of Wimmerweg Motorsport, who is also looking to become the team champions. An honor that went to Texaco Team AMS last year, the Turkish team taking home all titles in 2024. Well, Wimmerweg Motorsport is looking to bring home 4 of the 5 potential championships. The only one where they're not racing is the Gen 1 standings, as now Senna Somerville is up and running again. Was slightly close with car number 38 of Alessio Alcidi, who has in fact gained quite a lot on Senna Somerville. Of course, 5 of seconds were gained because of the roadblock, given that Somerville races on his own, and Alcidi is instead sharing his car with his brother Alessandro. Now Alessio is into the car, as we now see Leonardo Cuppari and Roberto Armogida, who are in 8th position. The latter now in the car for the very first time in a race situation. Meanwhile, we see now Senna Somerville, who looks to have been able to jump car number 1 in the pits. So not the pit stop that Sinan Chifchi was looking for, together with Ibrahim Okiai, though with hotter tires that are in the right temperature window, he is able to get 2nd position back, as now Alessandro Alcidi watches his brother Alessio close in on Edoardo Macari. Therefore, Salvatore Tavano is still in the lead. 2nd position belongs to car number 1 that we see right here with Texaco Team AMS and Sinan Chifchi. Third place is for Chris Issa and his teammate Senna Somerville, who's racing throughout this entire first stage. Fourth position belongs to Edoardo Maccari, meanwhile Alessio Alcidi is in fifth position. Behind them, it's Bernard Stitz in sixth. He looks to have overtaking Umut Göktaş, who is now in seventh position. Meanwhile, Roberto Armogida is in eighth. And let's not forget, of course, about BF Motorsport, with championship leader Yuri Brigliadori striking disaster at the end of lap number 2 as a contact with Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini's car has left him stranded right there on the inside at the exit of turn number 14, the penultimate corner of the racetrack. A 4.2 kilometer circuit with 15 corners opened in 1970, and that has been a staple in many calendars, especially the one of TCR European Endurance, hosting the last 2 rounds of the 2024 season. And of course, being able to use the floodlights, we saw an amazing night race last year. We are bound to watch another one later today. Let's not forget, in fact, that stage number 2 will take place later this Saturday under the floodlights to decide all titles, and that will happen at 17:45 local time. So in just over 8 hours, as the team will have enough time to regroup, to think of a strategy, to fix the car, hopefully for BF Motorsport, for example, to then get back out on track later tonight to decide who will clinch which title in 2025 here for TCR European Endurance. Speaking of that, let's give everyone a slight update on the standings. Coming into this race, it was in the overall classifications, Yuri Brigliadori with a 6-point lead over Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini. But let's not forget that Senna Somerville is also in contention for the overall standings, as he had an amazing season so far, winning in the overall standings in Slovakia. Somerville being only 8 points behind Yuri Brigliadori, a gap that will be completely overthrown after stage number 1, and therefore it will be the 2 Vimavec Motorsport cars fighting for the overall title later tonight, with of course a big advantage for Tavano and Scalvini, given that they have a much faster car because of class specifications. But of course, Senna Somerville will be the prime candidate for the DSG title. He currently holds a 21-point lead over Edoardo Maccari and Emilio Damante, though you can see the Audi very close to the back of the Cupra, and to the Motorsport has looked very quick throughout this weekend, looking to challenge Senna Somerville, but they need to win both stages, which would give them, of course, the class victory for the race as well, in order to close in on Somerville and gain enough points to overtake him in the championship. So far, so good for Senna Somerville, as he holds the DSG lead as he's done throughout this entire stage. In the Gen 2 standings, which of course include the fastest cars out on track, it is Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini holding the lead before this race. And of course, now with Yuri Brigliadori being out of contention in stage number 1, they're almost guaranteed the title should they live a trouble-free stage number 2. And right after that, we have the Gen 1 standings that have been dominated by Ibrahim Okiai and Sinan Çiftçi this year, and they're bound to become champions at the end of this weekend. We also have 2 trophies, the Gentleman Trophy as well as the Junior Trophy, that are based on the driver's age, and both of them will be going to Texaco Team AMS, with Ibrahim Okiai winning back-to-back Gentleman titles and Berk Kalpakleoglu getting the spoils for the junior class. So we have less than 60 minutes left on the clock. Salvatore Tavano is still holding the lead. We have seen very little of him after the contact with BF Motorsport, but that is because he is, together with Eric Scalvini, of course, dominating this stage number one. He's now over the start-finish line and has just set a 1:44 flat, which is over 1.5 seconds faster than anyone else out on track for now. Best lap being a 1:43.3. They were able to drop under the 1-minute 42s in qualifying, a phenomenal 1:41.7 for Tavano, with Eric Brigliadori being very close with a 1:41.8, just 67 thousandths of a second behind the pole sitter. That's why we were so excited for these two stages, with BF Motorsport looking to fight on race pace, but unfortunately for them, that's where their car is left after the contact at the end of lap number 2. This is the fight for second, third, and fourth in the overall standings. There is a 4.3 second gap between Simon Shipchi and Christopher Issa, with Eduardo Macari 3 seconds behind the Jamaicans. Senna Somerville is still in the car, with Issa having competed in free practice but electing not to race in this occasion. Therefore, Somerville is still in third place. Eduardo Macari is in fourth, right behind. The two are looking quite competitive compared to one another. The previous lap, however, Somerville has built a 3 second gap, gaining 5/10 on Macari. However, the fastest lap between the two of them is quite close, less than 2/10 in between them, with Somerville setting his personal best on the previous lap, as many have done recently. Of course, with the car getting lighter and the track getting warmer. It was quite cold this morning, but it's getting grippier and grippier out there, with cars lapping over and over again, which is why we're expecting the track to be much quicker tonight after the full day of on-track action here in Misano Adriatico. So there you can see Ribigliadori's car stricken on the inside at the exit of turn number 14, just before the pit entry. Meanwhile, here we see the car starting lap number 23. There was a competitive lap time for Eduardo Macari, just 1.5 tenths behind Somerville, who, however, is still gaining. The gap is now 3.3 seconds between the two DSG entries, as they're fighting for the class lead, and this will be such an important result for Somerville to close in even more on the DSG title. He will then require a trouble-free stage 2. Even finishing right behind Davante Macari would be enough for him to clinch the DSG title, which has looked to go his way ever since the very first race in Mugello. And then, of course, the incredible overall victory in Slovakia at the Slovakia ring. Granted, many things happened during that weekend to the top competitors, with Brigliadori and his teammate Giuseppe Cattia having difficulties in stage number 1 with a safety car intervention, and then, of course, Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini having technical issues to their Cupra, who has looked anything but faultless this season. Though on pace, they have been mighty quick, taking the overall maiden victory in Vallelunga last September, after coming so close in Mugello on their debut, with their car just stopping out on track with a little over 10 minutes left on the clock on stage number 2. Meanwhile, we also see some track limit warnings being given to the drivers. Of course, track limits being a very important topic to talk about. Drivers have been warned not to go over the curbs with all four wheels. We've seen warnings fly in for Senna Summerbell, as well as Umut Göktaş, who's already on his fourth warning. Meanwhile, for Summerbell, the one that happened a couple of minutes ago was his first one. As we now see Senna Summerbell looking to extend his gap over Edoardo Macari, who, however, has gained less than a tenth in the previous lap. Gap is now down to 3.2 seconds. You can also see how Salvatore Tavano is not really pushing. He's looking to just bring the car home safely. There's no need to push as hard as he can. Reaching the limit is a risk that he does not need to take in order to fight for the title. He knows that a safe drive is his best bet at the moment. That, of course, is what you would expect from a driver with the experience that he has. Tavano being a three-time TCR Italy champion from 2018 to 2020. Fighting hard for that crown against a plethora of competitive drivers, such as Eric Brigliadori. But however, the young Italian will not be partaking in this stage number one after BF Motorsport had to stop after just 2 laps with a contact that damaged the front left suspension. A contact, in fact, with Salvatore Tavano's car when Eric Scalvini was behind the wheel and fighting for the lead, with Eric's brother, Yuri Brigliadori. This is Sinan Shifci, who has been the driver to watch in the Gen 1 standings this year. He has had a plethora of great performances this year, though today the star has undoubtedly been Ibrahim Okiai, climbing from 6th all the way up to 2nd in the overall standings, with some very fine overtakes on Emilio Damante and Senna Summerbell. The Gen 1 entry being very competitive here in Misano. Car that was already very quick in Vallelunga, taking the win of the Gen 4, Gen 1 class, and then 4th in the overall standings, just like they did before. With now Salvatore Tavano still in the lead, as you can see from the graphics. Sinan Shifci is in 2nd, Senna Summerbell 3rd, with Edoardo Macari in 4th position. Meanwhile, you can see Bernard Stitz. He is now gotten past the Alcidi brothers. That is something that happened just this lap. He was 8 tenths behind at the start of lap number 25, though now the Hyundai Elantra is in front. Couldn't see the overtake live, but it was definitely Bernard Stitz on the move. We saw that happen during this weekend. Stitz trying to find the right balance at the start of the weekend on Friday throughout free practice and qualifying, being able to climb into the top 5 in the second qualifying session, though starting out of it due to his performance in Q1, but he has now climbed up to 5th in the first stage as well. He is also 2nd in the Gen 2 standings for this race, just in front of Yuri Brigliadori, who, however, has retired from this opening stage and therefore will not clinch any points. This means that Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini will be more than happy to take home almost 4 points in the Gen 2 standings, effectively clinching the title in that category. Naturally, their performance in stage number 2 will be all about just finishing the stage and the race altogether, given that they only need that to clinch that title. And if they want to win the overall standings as well, they will have to finish in front of their own teammates. That is Summerbell, of course, who is currently behind Sinan Shifci as well, and is in 3rd. So he will be losing even more points in the overall standings. This will be the number one's best result in a single stage this season. And I mean, they looked mighty competitive throughout the entire weekend, finishing on top in free practice too. They were the only team able to dethrone somehow Tavano and Scalvini this weekend in a single session, though the leading car did set the fastest lap time in free practice altogether. They just weren't able to get first place in FP2 due to a lot of traffic and some interruptions as well, which disrupted the rhythm. But that was ultimately a useless result for the sake of the championship itself. It was just free practice, and they had all the time in the world to take home pole position in qualifying and now dominate this opening stage after that tremendous two-lap battle with BF Motorsport, which unfortunately ended in tears for the Italian outfit. They were looking to become the first teams champions from Italy, but unfortunately for them, it's looking very difficult as Vimavac Motorsport is effectively just one step away from clinching that title, as well as the overall standings and the DSG class, as well as the Gen 2. So it will not be a clean sweep this year, just like we had last year with Texaco Team AMS, but still a dominant performance from Vimavac Motorsport, who are now in a 1-3 position with Salvatore Tavano in first and Senna Somerville in third. The gap between the two of them being over a minute, 1 minute and 5 seconds to be exact. That also bodes really well for Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini ahead of stage number 2, which will start at 17:45 local time later tonight under the floodlights, when we will be deciding the champions of the 2025 TCR European Endurance season. Meanwhile, here is the other all-brotherly entry, this time of Alessandro and Alessia Alcini. The latter in the car right now in 6th position in the overall standings, but on the podium for the DSG class in 3rd. This is Bernard Stitz, who is in 5th overall and 2nd in the Gen 2 class. Stitz has been the latest driver to enter the championship for the very first time. This weekend, of course, we also welcomed back Faro Racing. They were part of the grid in Mugello for the first round of the season. And now they're back with a single car entry, the Volkswagen Golf, which took the DSG win last time we were in Misano in 2024. Today, they're looking to finish in the top 5 of the DSG standings with Leonardo Coppari and Roberto Armogida, the latter making his debut in TCR European Endurance and running safely in 5th in the class standings and in 8th position in the overall classifications. Meanwhile, Salvatore Tavano has started what looks to be the penultimate lap of this opening stage of the race. This will be the very last stage 1 of the season, as Tavano and Scalvini have done a great job looking to increase that championship lead that they had in the Gen 2 class, but crucially taking the overall classification lead after stage number 1. They will be the new leaders for the very first time, as he now starts the final lap of the race, most likely. But we will be seeing how that fares once we get towards the start finish straight, as now we see the Alcidi brothers still fighting on. Of course, every second matters in stage number 1 because the overall race results will be given by the sum of the times of stages 1 and 2 combined, meaning that every single second here is crucial for stage number 2 and then to create the final classification, which will give us the names of the 2025 TCR European Endurance champions in all categories They're still up for grabs in what was an exceptionally competitive season here in 2025. And the Misano World Circuit is by far the best place to finish the year off in style, with the night race coming up later tonight at 17:45 p.m. local time. And we only have 30 seconds left on the clock, and we are getting ready to see the end of the race as Salvatore Tavano looks to round out this incredible opening stage. It was scary times for him and Eric Scalvini, the latter being at the wheel at the moment of truth when they had contact with BF Motorsport on the end of the second lap. But thankfully for them, it was all smooth sailing after that. And we're now getting ready to see the checkered flag fall. And it is BF Motorsport taking home the stage win as well as the race lead after the halfway stage. And that is Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini taking home P1 for Vimavec Motorsport and taking the overall championship lead after overtaking Yuri Brigliadori, who was right there, stricken still after the second lap of racing. What a performance for Texaco Team AMS with their Gen 1 car as well. Ibrahim Okia and Sinan Chifchi take the win for the opening stage in the Gen 1 class and finish second overall, their best ever result this season. As Christopher Issa's teammate, Senna Somerville, who's raced on his own throughout this opening stage, is bound to finish in third. He's, however, lost quite a lot of time in this first part, as we now see the drivers come towards the start-finish line as they now cross the line with Senna Somerville getting the spoils for third place. Edoardo Macari finishes in second, just 1.6 behind. As now we also see Bernard Stitz finish in fifth place. And that was a flawless performance from Renauer Motorsport, as they were able to finish in the top 5, with now Alessio Arcidi crossing the start finish line as well in 6th position, but on the podium for the DSG standings in this stage number 1, DSG class led by Senna Somerville, as he looks to clinch that title later today for stage number 2, starting at 17:45 local time, as we will go racing at nighttime for the first time this season here in Misano. But what will be a phenomenal end to a phenomenal season of TCR European Endurance. And here are the cars coming towards the pit lane. Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini will in fact be the overall leaders in the championship, but here are the highlights. This is the best way of rewatching the emotions of stage number 1. This was the incredible fight between Salvatore Tavano, Eric Scalvini, and Yuri Brigliadori, with Scalvini and Brigliadori fighting hard for the race lead. And here is the moment of truth, the contact between the two drivers that put Yuri Brigliadori out of contention from this race. And from there on in, it was smooth sailing for Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini. This is instead the fight that saw Ibrahim Okiai climb from 6th position all the way up to 2nd place in just the opening stint, overtaking Emilio Damante, Leonardo Cupari, Alessandro Arcidi, and last but definitely not least, Senna Somerville. This was the lockup that also gave Berk Kalpaklioglu a chance of overtaking Leonardo Cupari for 7th. Then it was time for pit stops, as Salvatore Tavano climbed in the Cupra with Eric Scalvini watching on. Werk Motorsport also working on Senna Somerville's car as he rejoined in third position in the overall standings, but crucially maintaining the DSG lead. And then it was Werk taking the checkered flag first with Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini, just ahead of Ibrahim Okensi and Avcivci in second, and then Senna Somerville in third position. But everything is still yet to be decided, so see you guys later tonight at 19:45 p.m. for stage 2.